Welcome everyone for the second workshop of this evening. How many of you, just out of curiosity, actually use social media? Just put up your hand. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Who loves all those videos, right? But how many of you feel sometimes that it could be overwhelming? There's just a lot going out there. I see a couple of hands going up. I'm in the digital marketing space, and I have to tell you, there's a moment every single day at work when I stand up and I want to tear my hair out. And that's a very common feeling. And the reason for that is there's just so much out there. There's so much that you could do, but there's only 24 hours in a day. So how do you manage your time, and how do you use social media to really drive results for Toastmasters? And that's what we're here to do tonight. I'm here to kind of break it down a little bit and help you create a manageable plan for your club. So as I mentioned earlier, social media really is an opportunity to leverage marketing and do so at little to no cost. But you have to do it in a strategic way to really help drive those results. So tonight we're going to be focusing on a couple of key objectives. The first one is I really want to focus on your club's objectives. Where do you want to take your club? I also want to focus a little bit on the main social media platforms and explain what they are, who the audience is, so that you could then make a decision for your club that will make a difference. And then the last area I want to focus on is how to actually create content or posts for social media that are effective. And we will have a Q&A session at the end as well. So let's jump right in. Why use social media? I may be already preaching to the converted, but as you may or may not know, social media really is an opportunity for you to build an identity online. And how many of you right now have one of these? Put up your hand. It's okay to admit it. Cell phone? Yes, all right, well, most of you, and we have data to show this, 50% of people actually don't even use a desktop computer anymore. They will check their emails, send texts, go on social media through their mobile phone. So if you have one of these in your pocket, think of your potential audience. They are an opportunity to really grab your message while they're browsing through your phone, and you're not really spending any money. Another great thing as well is if people find your club, you can bring your guests in because you're building that brand and you're promoting it. And for members, I'm going to show you a couple of ways as well to use social media to really retain them. Because I think it's important. Yes, you want to bring in guests because you want to grow your club, but you also want to retain your members and create excitement. So I always look at it from both perspectives. So now that you've all converted to social media, and you truly believe in the cause, let's talk a little bit about your objectives. So you don't want to go out there and sign up for every single social media site that you could think of. So a couple of key things I want you to focus on is, what do you hope your club can achieve by using social media? And a couple of examples that I've used in the past is you either want to bring in clubs, you want to bring in guests, or maybe you want to create a community for existing members, or maybe you want to do both. But what that helps you do is really create a vision for what you're going to do on social media. So I would highly recommend, if you haven't already explored this, really start that conversation with your club members and your executives so you understand why you're going to be using social media. The next thing I want you to think about is the fact that if you are going to move towards social media, you don't want to abandon other types of marketing. The way marketing works is you're using a variety of different methods to get your audience engaged. So for example, if you're doing posters for your events or maybe speech contests and they're working for you, continue to do that. If you have a website, as Derek mentioned earlier tonight, and that's getting you traction, you definitely want to keep that. And you also have other sites, like some people use Easy Speak and Meetup and Free Toast Host. You also want to continue doing that if it's working for your club. Social media would just be an additional channel that you would be adding on if you and your executive decide that this is something that will work for you or that you want to test for your club. So I just wanted to make sure I shared that as well. So when you're looking at social media, one of the key aspects is your target audience. In marketing, we use a lot of buzzwords, but target audience is who are the people that you're looking to attract? or who are the people that you're looking to bring into the club? That might be another way of looking at it. But this is just a list of examples. And by the way, I will share the slides with everyone. I know there's a lot of content on here. So if you're scrambling to write notes, I'll be more than happy to email the slides to everyone later on tonight. So a couple of target audience examples is working professionals. I know Toastmasters attracts a lot of working professionals. If you're in a downtown area close to a university, you might be attracting more students. So I used to be part of Annex, and 50% of our club was actually university students, so it's important to know your audience. You also have, sometimes really depending on the groups, different age groups. So you might have more millennials, more boomers, a mixture. But the reason it's important to know is when we get to the next section, that will help you identify which of the social media groups and sites you really want to go after. So what does your audience want? How many of you have a sales background? Put up your hand. Okay, so you're probably going to recognize these words like pain points, right? And so for many of you that don't understand that sales speak, a pain point is something that you're trying to get your audience to let me rephrase that. So what you're basically trying to do is really get the people that you're trying to bring in through social media, you're trying to understand who they are, what their fears are, and what the need is. So why do they need social media, for example? So a great example of that is a lot of people have a basic fear of public speaking. Last time I looked, I think it was ranked first, and death was actually ranked second. So people want to die before they want to speak in public. That's actually very terrifying. Some people just want to speak with confidence. So when I first started out on my Toastmasters journey, the reason I joined was I had a level of frustration in my professional development. I didn't have enough opportunities to speak in public at work, and so I felt a little stifled. But by coming to Toastmasters, I really gained traction and was able to grow my confidence and grow my leadership skills. So again, just keep that in your back pocket. So what does your audience want? What are their pain points? So now you've kind of just digested some of that background information. Now we can actually move into the social media platforms. So many of you probably know this already, but there are quite a few. You probably recognize some of the icons. We've got Facebook, we've got LinkedIn, we've got Twitter, we've got YouTube, we've got Google+. So all of those are just the plethora of social media sites that are out there. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a couple of discussions that you want to have in the planning process. So where is your audience going to be? So for example, when we go through these platforms, if your club is a mixture of ages, you may want to go after a certain platform like Facebook. If you have a corporate club, you may want to go after a site like LinkedIn. So we'll get into those details. Another one is your executive time. Put up your hand right now if your club has a fully staffed executive. Fully staffed executive. Okay, good. So you guys are the lucky ones. So if you have a fully staffed executive, with many clubs, you're trying to fill roles. So there are critical items that you want to do. You want to have your VP Ed. You want to make sure your membership is up and running. But if you have a fully staffed executive, you can potentially add social media on because this will take time. It doesn't cost money. It doesn't take a lot of time, but you do need to dedicate time to setting up your social media sites and posting on those sites. And then the other thing as well is if you are a club that perhaps it's a smaller club or you're not fully staffed up, but you still want to do social media, pick one site, and we'll go through those tonight. Pick one site, do it very well, get up, get running, and then if you're getting traction out of it, then move on to the next site. Okay, so just I always tell my clients, if it feels overwhelming, break it down, do it step by step, and it's amazing what you can achieve. So let's go through the sites. Hopefully you guys have the pen and paper handy or just mental notes. So LinkedIn, and by the way, I've listed them in priority order, and it's amazing what's happened over the last 15 years. So LinkedIn was launched in 2002. Many of you know it and use it as a way to connect professionally. Some employers actually use that in place of a resume. So it's a place for you to really brand and market yourself. What LinkedIn has been really well used for by Toastmasters, as I mentioned earlier, is corporate clubs. So they will actually create a page on the LinkedIn site really branding what their club is about, where they're located, and then they will link it to their employer's brand. So for example, I work at Pearson. I have a corporate club, and I've created a page there, and all I've done is clicked a button and linked to their page. So any employees that type in Pearson, somewhere in the search results, the Toastmasters Club will appear, and it's free. So if you have a corporate club, or you think that your audience is perhaps more of a working professional audience, LinkedIn would be a great choice. And as you can see, there's 467 million members globally, which means you have a large portion of people that are currently using it. And one thing I'll also list on these slides as well is posting frequency. What do I mean by that? We'll go through the content later, but by that I mean how frequently you should be putting material on that page that you've created to really help build it up and build traction. So for LinkedIn, it would be, I'm recommending about once a week. It might be less, it might be more, but that's just based on best practices.
Just a question, when posting to social media, do you have to get privacy forms or anything like that signed by your members or people that are coming in before you post to any of these sites?
That's a really good question. So if you are promoting a member, so for example, if you're doing a profile and you're taking their photo and you're using their words or even videos, you definitely want to get their permission, whether it be through a waiver form or something in writing, even an email, just before you post it online. So that's very important. But if you're doing more general stories, so for example, if you're promoting an event or you're promoting an open house, or the club is celebrating a specific anniversary, because it's not tied to a specific individual, you wouldn't need the waiver form. But that's a really good question. Yeah. Facebook, everyone's favorite waste time. I was actually talking to my management team earlier today, and they were like, they actually track social media use, and the amount of time that gets wasted on Facebook is incredible. They're just very polite, so that they're too Canadian. They don't tell us to stop using it. But Facebook was launched in 2004, but it is enormous. It's over 1 billion users, which is just incredible. So if you have a club that has a mixture of audiences, mixture of ages, and you're not really sure which platform to use, your best bet is to go with Facebook. Best bet is to go with Facebook. Most people are on it. They have it on their phones. They have it on their tablets. They're probably posting pictures of their cat, like my friend. But the point is, it's a great way for you to easily create a club page and also to post things like milestones and key celebrations. So that's one thing you could do. And the frequency with this is 2 to 3 times a week. And again, these are recommendations. If you do less, if you do more, it's up to you. But these are just some best practices. An example I wanted to show with you is actually Blossoming Voices. So we had a Facebook page that we had created earlier this year. And for those of you that are, I know it's a little bit hard to see at the back, but we have a Facebook club page that we created. We had some wonderful imagery that was actually shot by Janice and a couple of team members. And what we've done here, we currently have 35 members that have joined, but we've posted a couple of milestones. We've had some mock speech contests, and we've also had some members comment on their experience. So that's the comment that you're seeing at the bottom. And the individual is saying, I don't think I've ever enjoyed a Toastmasters meeting as much as last evening's meeting at Blossoming Voices. So if anyone is looking at the word Toastmasters, or they're looking at a specific location in Toronto, we will actually show up again in the search rankings, and it's free. YouTube. YouTube, I think, has replaced TV for me, almost. But I think I'm still addicted to CNN and the post-election that's going on. So YouTube, I think, is very popular. A lot of us are kind of shifting to more of a visual way of learning. And so if your club has permission from members, for example, to videotape speeches, YouTube would be a great way to share those speeches once you've had the waiver form signed and post it online. And how long do you think those speeches are? Usually 5 to 7 minutes, right? Well, YouTube kind of loves that length. So anything around the 5 to 7, even 10-minute mark works really, really well. So if you have content, I would highly recommend that you use it. And again, YouTube, after Facebook, has over 1 billion users. So if you have more of a general audience, you really can't go wrong. And for YouTube, I would recommend posting about once a month. And just to give you an example, this is actually Toastmasters International. They posted a video a couple of months ago called the 5 Basic Public Speaking Tips. And they had someone delivering a presentation similar to Derek's format and to my format, 5 minutes. And what's amazing is they had over 800,000 views of the video, and they had over 47,000 people subscribe to their YouTube channel. That's from one video. And if you go to the Toastmasters International site, there are multiple videos on their YouTube channel. So again, if you really have more of a general audience, or even millennials who love that kind of content, I would recommend YouTube. Twitter. I love Twitter, and I love that logo of the bird. It's actually my favorite icon. But Twitter was launched in 2006, has a little bit less. It has about 1/3 of the members that Facebook does, around 317 million. Twitter is a very immediate social media account. It's actually called a microblogging account. You need to use 140 characters or less, so the equivalent would be maybe about a sentence and a half. But the great thing about it is, again, you do have the ability to send out messages easily. So if you've won an award, if you're celebrating a milestone, that's a really great way to do it. Also reminding people that you have club meetings that are coming out. So sending it maybe an hour before or the day before, that can also work as well. For this though, you do need to really be active. So you would be posting at least once a day. So those are the recommendations. And just to move on here, Google+. So Derek earlier talked about the importance of Google. Google has actually launched their own social media site. When it first launched, it kind of got meh. Yeah, people weren't really impressed, but Google has done a great job of really pushing this platform forward. And so you have 375 million active users. What I would recommend with your Google Plus page is create a club page, put some content on there like a website, talk about who you are, where you're located, maybe put a couple of member testimonials on there. And if you don't have time, I would say that's okay. But what you want to do is you want to be found. So with Google Plus, it's a great opportunity for you to be found if anyone is looking through that Facebook page. Or through that Google page. But if you have an opportunity, you want to be posting at least once a week. And here's an example again, Blossoming Voices. So as you can see, we use some of the visual imagery shot by our team, and then we posted some information down here. But when people are searching for Toastmasters, we do come up in the rankings as well. And it has our location, also our email, and our phone number as well. So Blossoming Voices is actually located at the Toronto Botanical Gardens. So when we were coming up with names, we were looking for similar names that sounded with just an opportunity to really bloom, to kind of play off the flowers and the beautiful settings. So we ended up choosing the name Blossoming Voices. Yeah, you should come join us. We meet every Tuesday at 7, Lawrence and Leslie. But we run a normal Toastmasters meeting, so nothing special. But sometimes in the summer, we actually have our meetings outside. That's a little plug for Blossoming Voices. All right, so Derek earlier talked also about posting your business on Google. So I'm actually going to show you how to do that. So if you have a Toastmasters club and it has a physical set location, what I would recommend is going to google.com/business. It is free to have you register your club. You do need to follow a series of steps, and obviously you'll need to wait for some pieces to come through. But the great thing about this is you will actually be listed on Google and also on Google Maps. There's also other directories that I would recommend. So if you have individuals that prefer Yahoo or Bing or Yellow Pages, these are also online directories that I would recommend signing up for. And by the way, one pro tip that I would recommend, if you don't know where to start, because this is quite a bit of information to cover, when you have new members that are coming in, or even guests, give them one of those half-page surveys and asking their information. And at the bottom, ask them what they use for social media. Just list it. List Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. And over time, even over a month, if you get enough visitors, you're going to start seeing a trend. And that might also help your executive start to narrow down where you should start focusing your time on social media. So that's just a tip if you don't know where to start. And this is another example, Blossoming Voices. I know I'm promoting Blossoming Voices a lot tonight, but we actually have it set up. We have our club location, our hours, and so far we have a 4.9 out of 5 rating. Someone must have been really mad and dropped us off by 0.1 points. And we have 9 member reviews. So anyone that types in a number of keywords, not only do they see our imagery, they see our location, they see our ranking, and they see a synopsis of the testimonials, but when they click on it, most of the testimonials are about a paragraph, 3 to 4 sentences. So that's very easy to set up. You would just have your members contribute information once the page is set up. So content creation and posting. How many of you actually like to write? Put up your hand. All right, good, half of you. Good, even more than half. That's actually very good, because when you have social media and you're trying to post, it's very important that you are writing content. And if you're assigning someone to social media, you may want to ask them if they enjoy writing, because that will be helpful. So you might be wondering, what type of information do I want to post on my social media channel after I've narrowed it down? So there's a couple of things, as I mentioned earlier. You could talk about your members. You can also promote your contests. You can even promote and hype your executive elections, which for most clubs happens twice a year. Your speech contests happen twice a year. You have member awards that happen, for example, the first CC, the icebreaker, CC number 10, your CL completion, advanced medal completion. There are so many awards and recognitions that you can celebrate. Your club achievements, distinguished club, right? So you have those ribbons that come. You can easily promote that. If you have videotapes or speeches that have been videotaped, you could share that. And also event photos. So there's so many things. If you're looking for inspiration on where to start, this is just a small list. I actually started with a much longer list. I had to chop it down. But this is just to really start you thinking. So how do you create content for your posts? So these are some general recommendations. When you're creating content, you want to keep it short. So usually 1 to 2 sentences, 100 characters roughly. How many of you heard the word sticky? Sticky. Yeah?
Sticks in the top of the Facebook page or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. So with sticky, or when I used to be a kid, I would take my gum. I would throw it against a wall when my teacher wasn't watching. That was my version of sticky, but then when I got into marketing, I learned that sticky is actually making your message catchy. So what you want to do is write in a way that's memorable or that's easy to follow. You don't want to be too technical. You want to make it pleasing. Another thing as well is images and videos. Those do very well. I mentioned earlier we're a very visual audience. So if you have a camera, even if you've got your tablet with you or your phone or you've got other members that do, ask them to take pictures and obviously get permission of the members who are in it. But those you can add to your posts when you're celebrating, for example, one of your members getting their icebreaker, and just post the image along with it once you've gotten permission. You want to make sure as well when you're creating this content, you're not focusing on creating a lot of content. What you want to do is create high quality content. So what I mean by that is, I love animals and I love cute photos of animals, but you don't want to start posting those onto your Facebook or your Twitter page. Even though they're cute and fuzzy, they're not related to public speaking. So you want to keep it relevant. If that means that you're posting 1 to 2 times a month, but it is very relevant, it's better to do that than to post once a day and have 98% not related to what your audience is looking for. First of all, they'll think it's unprofessional, and secondly, it's just not going to look great on your page. The last thing is hashtags. How many of you guys heard of hashtags? Okay, great. So hashtags is this symbol right here. So it's like the little symbol on your phone, the number symbol. Hashtag is just a way for people to find keywords on social media. So for example, Derek earlier was talking about Toastmasters. We had a gentleman at the back talking about downtown Toronto Toastmasters. Right, so those are keywords that people might be looking for. So if you have a keyword like public speaking or Toastmasters, you definitely want to make sure that you put that in your posts. What the hashtag does is anyone who is searching for keywords like Toastmasters, public speaking, leadership, will be able to find certain bits of information on social media.
In other words, it indicates that this is a keyword.
Exactly. It's another way of saying a keyword. So very quickly, I also wanted to share Toastmasters because they actually do a lot of work, as Jen has said earlier, for marketing. So you can easily use, if you're just getting started and you don't really know where to go to Toastmasters, and I'll put up a link in a couple of minutes. But Toastmasters celebrated their 90th anniversary. So a couple of examples of posts that they would put on social media is, happy 90th anniversary Toastmasters, hashtag Toastmasters. Thinking about joining, we have 90 reasons why you should, hashtag Toastmasters. So it's a great way for you to tie the celebration that's happening at Toastmasters International with what's happening at your club. So a couple of final tips, and I'll go through these and then I'll open it up for Q&A, is for Facebook. Facebook, again, I would highly recommend it as a general site if you're not sure where to start. So go in and create a Facebook group or a Facebook club page. If you're not sure which one, you can email me. What you want to do is share information, so create a schedule of what you're going to post, or at least create a list of ideas to get you started, and then decide how long you're going to post. So if it's once a week, just go to your list, find something that's relevant, and write that message. Well, if you're on Facebook and you are acknowledging some members, so for example, if we have an individual who has completed their 10th speech and you've taken a photo of them, use the @ symbol and then find their name. You'll obviously talk to them in advance, but in the message that you write, just put their name there. Put their name in. And what's going to happen is it'll pop up in their newsfeed. And a lot of people will share it with their friends, which is also another free way to spread the news about Toastmasters. And then we talked about it earlier as well. You also want to use hashtags in your posts. So for example, here's an example from Blossoming Voices. So we had a mock speech contest. We had Andrew come in, Pandora, May, and we did it 1 week before the actual speech contest because we were still chartering. And we had one message with just the 3 photos. The message is really simple. Lots of learning and fun at yesterday's mock table topics contest. But we had 35 people that reached the message, 2 likes, 1 share. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but we're just a new club. And when we put that message up, we weren't even on the Toastmasters International list. So any traction that we got was great, and it's free publicity for us. A couple of areas that we could improve on, right? So this is part of that learning growth curve, is we probably could have put hashtag Toastmasters, hashtag public speaking, hashtag speaking contests. And we could have also used the @ symbol with the person's name. So with Pandora, with May, with Michael Jackson, is that his name? We call him Mike Jackson, and Andrew. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a couple of questions. I know that it's a lot to absorb, but I'm just going to open it up to see if there are any questions that might be helpful for your club. One thing I also want to share with everyone as well is, let me go up here, is the Toastmasters resource page. So if you're looking for ideas on how to tweak content, go to toastmasters.org/social networking. And they have some great ways for you to tweak your content or just to get you started and use a number of different variations if you're using more than one social media channel.
Thank you.
Yes?
So this Instagram slide, are you going to speak about Instagram or just any any word about Instagram and promote yourself on Instagram and help people?
Sure. I'm glad you asked about Instagram. So Instagram is another social media site. It is an opportunity for individuals who take a lot of photos to really put it on the platform, and people would scroll through and then just click on that image. You do put a little bit of a description at the bottom. You probably use hashtags with keywords to get attention. But what I would recommend is really look at your audience. Instagram is getting a wider audience, but it's mostly used by millennials. So,
What does that mean, a millennial?
Millennial is anyone born from the 1980s to, I believe, they would be, I think, around 33, 34 at this time. And a couple of image resources if you are using Instagram, freeimages.com, Google Images, and canva.com. So if you want free images and you don't have the resource to buy stock images, or you don't have any photos of your members to start with, those are 3 resources that I would recommend.
How
Yes?
about Toastmasters resources, all the images?
That's right. So if you want the Toastmasters one specifically, I would recommend that site. So very good point. Yes, go ahead.
If we're using Instagram, how often do you recommend posting for that one?
Instagram is, I would say, an immediate channel as well, almost similar to Twitter. So what I would do is focus on really high quality images, and you would be looking to do it once a day, or bare minimum 2 to 3 times a week, because that moves very quickly. Yes?
If you put a Facebook page up and you never post to it, is it worse than not putting it up at all?
Oh gosh.
I think that's an excellent question.
That's a really good question. That's like asking if no one is in the forest and you chop down a tree, will they hear it fall? That's the equivalent of that question. Here are my thoughts on it as a digital marketer. I think that there is no bad publicity, and here's how that translates to social media. If you put up a Facebook page and you have good content, so you have an About Us section, you put the location, you put the hours, you put an email, and you never post any more information on there, you could probably get away with it, right? So put good images, and just make sure that when people log on, they get a really good impression of the social media page that you're using. That being said, as a marketer, it pains me to say this, I would recommend posting content. So if you can't afford to do it once a week, 2 to 3 times a week, maybe do it once a month. You're the one setting up the social media account, you own it, you decide that with your executive. Everything that we've discussed tonight is a recommendation based on best practices and key learnings that I use on a daily basis as a marketer. Yeah. So adapt and adjust to your club. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.